Asas. What happens when you take two vibrant brothers that are descendants from the Greeks in Constantinople, embracing their American roots, and then ask them to serve up rich tales of traditions, cuisine, childhood memories, and a hearty dose of humor? You're about to find out. This is Baklava Banter, your passport to all things Greek.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Baklava and Banter from New York. I am Petraki, and from the desert in Arizona, he is the philosopher of philo. He is...
Soto.
Our guest is a critically acclaimed international best-selling author who produces strong, colorful characters and riveting storylines. She is the recipient of numerous major international awards for her work in historical fiction. Please help me introduce, all the way from Melbourne, Australia, Kathryn Gauci. Welcome, Kathryn.
Thank you for hosting me.
Oh, it is our pleasure. Before we get into the book, The Aegean Odyssey, I'd like everybody to know kind of your background here. You grew up in the UK.
Yes.
Where exactly did you grow up?
I'm from the Midlands, Leicestershire.
Okay. Where's that from London?
About a 2-hour drive.
Okay.
It's the exact middle of England.
Okay. And then college, you got a degree in art design.
Yes, I spent 6 years at art college, starting off in fashion and textiles,
Mm-hmm.
and then I specialized for 4 years in carpet design.
Okay. And that took you to Vienna.
Yes, because in those days, and I'm making myself sound really old here, we're talking about, I was a hippie. So we talk about the end of the 60s to early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to work in a factory as a designer in the UK because in those days you couldn't get very far if you were a woman. And I had gone on in industrial practice in Europe, and I decided I'm not going to work in the UK. I want to leave. I want to go and work in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd already been to Holland and Denmark to do some work, and I just wrote letters, and thinking law of averages, someone's going to want me somewhere.
Sure.
And unfortunately, my first job was in Vienna, where I stayed for a year. Yeah.
And then,
So that was the first job.
so what did the journey look like from going from Vienna to Greece?
I didn't realize at the time that I had almost gone back in time.
Okay.
Vienna is today, we've got international travel, everybody goes everywhere. But in those days, Vienna was still on the edge of Europe, and people didn't travel that far as they do today.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, I realized that I'd gone back into a sort of time warp. I don't know if you know the film The Third Man.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the film?
Yes.
It was almost like that mood of the war era,
Mm-hmm.
even though the factory was in a village on the outskirts of Vienna.
Sure.
It had only been 10 years since Vienna had become independent again as a country. Until that time, the Allies had been there. And the section where I worked, where the factory was used to be in the Russian sector.
Okay.
So there was still a feeling of the war.
Sure.
And monetarily, I was only earning as much as when I was a student on a grant. And I look back now, and I think it was a fantastic cultural experience. But at the time, I thought, "Oh my God, what am I doing here?" I mean, there were still hidden Nazi parties, and I was working with people who had fought at Stalingrad.
Wow.
And yeah, and I never thought at that time that I would ever be a writer. but I absorbed it. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, being a hippie, purple ponchos, all these, I stood out like crazy. And Vienna, even though the factory was in the village outside, Vienna was still a place full of manners and propriety, even more so than being in England.
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't suit me. It just didn't suit me. And as soon as I got there, I thought, I've got to get out of here. But the factory had paid for me to go over. They'd given me a flat. And I thought, I cannot just leave now. I've
Sure.
got to give it at least a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time, I always knew I would leave. And then by the time at the end of that year, I started to write more letters. Again, law of averages, writing out all these letters to all these factories. You can't find these carpet factories now. They've disappeared. But in those days, there were a lot. So I wrote to Italy. I even wrote to Iceland, all sorts of places. And I wrote to Greece. Dear sir, I've always wanted to work in so-and-so. And there weren't emails there. So you had to post these letters.
Yeah.
And they were all the same, except that I changed where I wanted to go. And then I'm thinking, dear sir, I've always wanted to work in Iceland. Dear sir, I've always wanted to work in blah, blah, blah. And then I give my resume. And then I'd be thinking afterwards, oh my God, have I put the dear sir, I've always wanted to work in Iceland in the letter to Italy? Things like that. Because anyway, so I just sent out all these letters,
Yeah.
and the owners in Anatolia, in Athens,
Uh-huh.
responded, and they said, yes, we would like to interview you. And fortunately, the college where I went to, Kidderminster, which was the center of the carpet industry
Mm-hmm.
in England, and really in the world at that time. Dalton, Atlanta came up
Mm-hmm.
quickly afterwards because of tufted carpets. But it had a course that was PhD level for
Yeah.
carpet technology, and the owner's nephew had gone and done a PhD at Kidderminster. So
Oh.
they said, oh, yeah, because we know about the college, and we would like to repay the kindness that our nephew received. And I went for a 3-day interview, and of course accepted the job.
Wow.
And when I told them in Vienna, they were sad to see me go, but they thought I was going to a backwards place. They said, why are you going to Greece? There's no electricity. They still ride on donkeys. And yet I was suddenly earning 3 times more than I was in Vienna.
Yeah.
So the concept of Vienna and Greece was quite different in those
Sure.
days.
Sure. Was it a huge cultural difference for you from going from the UK to Vienna to Greece?
Very. A
Yeah.
big difference. Well, for a start off, as I said, I was flower power hippie, and I probably don't look like it now, but yeah, I was. That was, well, I can say that as a designer, you're accepted as an artist, so
Mm-hmm.
you can be a bit weird. People look at you, oh, she's an artist, he's an artist, they would do all sorts of things anyway. But the constraints of Vienna were not to my temperament.
Mm-hmm.
When I then went to Greece, it was like, wow, night and day. Suddenly, even in those 3 days, I'm taken to a taverna with my boss,
Yeah.
Nikos, and his wife, and everybody sitting around the table, and they're all feeding each other with, here, have a bit of this. And that never would have happened in Vienna. Never.
Sure. 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 And that
So I knew that it would suit my spirit. So by accident, I ended up there.
yeah. Yeah. And that experience brought you to your first book, which was called The Embroiderer. Talking about that experience, correct?
Yeah. Well, Can I just go back a bit?
Sure.
I worked in Athens for 6 years.
Okay.
And at the time, I never ever thought that I would be a writer.
Okay.
So I was a designer for Anatolia, which was the largest company in Greece at the time. And I think the name Anatolia still exists. They have their own shops. I stayed there and I absorbed everything that was going on because I was the only English person in the factory. But the interesting thing here is that I worked in Anatolia was. Do you know Athens?
Yes.
Well, Anatolia is on the border of Neo-Ionia and Kalogoreza. So it's Asia Minor refugee area. Now, these are the people that I was working with. And when I first went there, I had no idea about that. No idea at all. All I knew was sort of the Acropolis and ancient Greece, all these things. Had no idea at all about modern Greece. So they said to me, Kathryn, do you realize you're working in a refugee area? And I sort of looked around and I said, well, where are the refugees? Everybody's Greek. And that's when I learned of the Asia Minor catastrophe and what had happened. And you have to remember, in the first year or so, I didn't speak Greek, except there was only one word that I knew, Ella, which I recalled from the days of my school friend's mum saying Ella in the village in Leicester. I didn't know anything. So sometimes it helps when you go to a country and you don't understand the language, because you can read people's eyes. And when they started to tell me about what took place, the burning of Smyrna and the whole Asia Minor catastrophe in general, I could see that look in their eyes of it was a longing, a yearning for what they called their old country. And the more that I got to know the language, the more that I could converse with them, and they told me their stories. And that never left me. I was designing for modern carpets, machine carpets, but I also bought, with my ex-husband then, an upright Turkish loom, which we kept in our house, and he learnt to warp and weave, and I also did knotting. So we actually learnt the real Turkish knotting, which was going on at the time. A lot of families were doing that and selling their work, and also working in the factory. And when you buy these looms, you also buy things like the hand beaters and the scissors and things like that. Now, I knew these are really old pieces of equipment, and I knew that those pieces were heirlooms that would have been brought from Asia Minor, as people fleeing were taking their sewing machines. They would have they took their tools of trade. And then they gradually set up in various around Piraeus, Athens, and up north. So I was quite conscious that that was being passed down to me. Someone over in Turkey had used those. So that I was enveloped by that all the time. And I have to say that whenever people often ask me this, that how did they feel? And without doubt, I can say none of those people that I worked with, the older people, and some of them spoke Turkish as their first language as well. none of them ever said they hated the Turks.
Yeah.
They all said it was politics that
Mm-hmm.
pulled them apart, and that they had lived together side by side for generations.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost think it's a bit, this sort of hatred and anger that seeps in can be a bit of a generational thing. I see it with people of the Holocaust. The first generation is traumatized,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want to talk about it. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
the second generation suffers that trauma of their parents. The third generation then gets a bit angry and
Mm-hmm.
things get muddied. But they never felt anger. Not at all.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, besides knowing about the Asia Minor catastrophe, is that I was very close to World War II because I lived in the area of Tipseli, which is halfway, I don't know if you know it, it's halfway between Neonia and the centre of Athens. So I could
Mm-hmm.
walk it down Partisian, past the archaeological museum into
Mm-hmm.
Athens, which I did a lot. And I lived 2 streets away from where Lele Karayani lived, who was one of the most important World War II agents uh, fighting against the Germans.
Okay.
And she ran the Bubulina network, working with a special operations executive from, based in Cairo.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to know a lot about what happened in World War II as well. And then afterwards a little bit more about the Civil War, although people were still very edgy to talk about the Civil War. But it was not difficult in those days to walk past buildings which were bullet strewn. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of them have been down now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, so there's the. I'm still never ever thinking that I would write a book. I just absorbed it all. And of course, the other thing is that I was aware that I was going to Greece under a dictatorship
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't have any idea what what happened under a dictatorship. Well, I soon learned that there was a file on me. There was a file on everybody,
Wow. Okay.
and my boss, Nikos, who was a great inspiration to me in my life. You know, sometimes in life you have about half a dozen mentors. They
Mm-hmm.
don't really know they've been mentors. He was one of them.
Yeah.
He was a big man. He was the Zorba type, but he could cry. And when the tanks rolled in to the Polytechnic, that next day he was in the office crying like a baby. You know, I walked by the Polytechnic all the time. I used to listen to the music of Maria Faranduli and
Mm-hmm.
Theodorakis, and I watched it all coming to a head.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty brutal. A lot of Nikos's friends were living in Paris. They'd
Mm-hmm.
left during this time. And he himself had had his passport taken away from him. So when the junta fell, there was a great period of optimism, and
Mm-hmm.
Greece suddenly came alive again.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what was the inspiration for you writing the first book?
Uh, well, after 30 years of being, at least 30 years of being a designer, I decided that I wanted I wanted a change of career, but I still wanted something artistic, and I thought I want to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to Greece, which is actually, so we're sort of going a bit round in a circle here,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I went, which is where the memoir comes from.
Right.
So I took time off because the textile industry was also changing at that time. Things
Mm-hmm.
were going offshore. Same in America as well. I had a lot of American friends as well. And so I thought I'll take 2 years, 2 months off. I'll just go around Greece, and I wanted to find the old Greece that I knew. That was very important to me, to
Mm-hmm.
find the old Greece that I knew in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back, I typed everything up, all those notes, and it's a good job I did, because I never would have remembered anything.
Sure.
But the book, it didn't seem right to put that book out at the time. So we're talking 2005 that I
Right.
went. Something was telling me, no, this is not right, for various reasons, which I
Mm-hmm.
probably know now better now than I did then. So I just put it aside, thinking it will come to me.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been one of those people. I don't worry about something if it's not working. I just think, go away from it and come back and it will work.
Mm-hmm.
And then it dawned on me that, as I said at the end of the book, that light bulb moment that, no, I didn't mean to be a memoir. I wasn't going to be a travel memoir. What I was looking for was the characters and, as I said, the old world and the history. I mean, I just soaked up that history like, well, I love history anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell their stories. I see myself really as a storyteller,
Mm-hmm.
because what they were telling me were their stories. And so I merged that with more history that I'd learned since being away,
Sure.
and thought I can really only do this through historical fiction. And that's when I ended up with, let's see,
There
the
you go.
embroiderer.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it was an epic work, because it took me at least 6 years to write. And central to the story was the Asia Minor catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
But to do it justice and to tell, because most of the West, even today, still have no idea what the Asia Minor catastrophe is all about. They have
Mm-hmm.
no idea about the relationship between Greece and Turkey, which is very close.
Yeah.
And they're part of each other.
Yes.
And so to do it justice, I thought to myself, I had to find out what would make the Turks so angry, so aggressive at this point that this happened. That took me back to the First World War,
Yeah.
and that still wasn't enough. That took me back to the Balkan Wars, and then it took me back to the Greek War of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also have remembering that in the center of that book is the Asia Minor catastrophe and the burning of Smyrna. I then wanted to, this is why it's an epic, I
Mm-hmm.
then wanted to show what happened to those who fled, what their lives were like when they had to remake another life. I mean, some didn't do it.
Yeah.
It was too much for some people. Many
Yeah.
expected to go back. The
Yeah.
majority expected to go back. So I wanted it to be all encompassing. So after my trip, and I decided to make the starting point. There is a modern day starting point in 1972, where a
Mm-hmm.
woman in London gets a telephone call that her aunt in Athens is dying. So she goes back and then she uncovers his story. But the story really begins with the massacre of Chios.
Mm-hmm.
So the thread of embroidery and textiles is woven all the way through, and it's done through the female line in this story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, um, the embroiderer takes many aspects. The embroidery is a painting, which
Mm-hmm.
is very important through it, uh, done by a painter at the time of the massacre. the embroiderer is also a woman who becomes very wealthy through her work as an embroiderer, and she works for the high society and is sponsored by the Valid Sultan, and so she becomes wealthy, and her granddaughter becomes a couturier in Constantinople, opposite the Pira Palace.
Mm-hmm.
So where everything was happening in the Grand Rue de Pira. And then, of course, after the Balkan Wars and the First World War, she closes down the woman who's, there's two protagonists really. Sophia, who's the couturier, Demetra,
Mm-hmm.
who's the embroiderer, the grandmother. Sophia comes back to Smyrna, opens up the couturier shop there, and then the catastrophe happens. And of course, not everybody makes it out of Smyrna.
Yeah.
Those who do, few who do, are forced to make a life again, which then leads up, while they are making this life again, suddenly World War II happens.
Mm-hmm.
And our protagonist here is using her knowledge of what she'd found out in Constantinople with the Filiki Eteria and the secret societies to work with the resistance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm bringing in all this knowledge. That's why
Yeah.
it's in it.
So
And people have said to me, people have said to me, it's in Melbourne, it's the best-selling book that I have and this big Greek community here. And they say, thank you for telling our story. We didn't know a lot of this, but it really wasn't only their story, it's my story as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, even when I think about it now, I'm thinking of them telling me this. I'm thinking of the sites that I've visited. It's alive for me. I've walked down those streets. So, that's the important.
So going full circle here. So we have the Aegean, your latest book, The Aegean Odyssey.
Yeah.
So what exactly was it 20 years after you went there to finally release it? What was that moment that you said now it's ready to be released? Is it that you've told these other stories leading up to it?
Well, I've written with this one now 7 books set in
Okay.
Greece,
Okay.
2 in Istanbul alone, but
Yeah.
usually sometimes it's a connection. But at the time, anyway, I didn't feel that I was a very good writer.
Okay.
I'm quite critical of and I don't do writing courses and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I read books that I think I write like I want to read, and so it wasn't time to do the memoir then, because in those days I think people were really only wanting to read about celebrities,
Mm-hmm.
and plus the publishing industry has changed a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
now with all the self-publishing, there's memoir groups, and there's all this. So this memoir situation has really burgeoned. And I thought, I've got all these notes. And I was reading about people who were going off in the last few years to Greece and finding themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went back to Greece to write this to find the information, I hadn't lost. I wasn't going to find myself because I hadn't lost myself.
Right.
I wasn't going to do a Shirley Valentine, and I
Sure.
didn't want my book to be a Shirley Valentine. Although I wanted the Shirley Valentine readers to read it.
Sure.
But I hadn't lost myself. I was just looking for a different perspective on something.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, these people, and many of the people that are writing these memoirs are not seeing the Greece that I knew. I just wanted it. I wanted it to be out. I wanted that old Greece to be out. And
Mm-hmm.
with now being a better writer, having a better editor, I looked at all those notes again, and that's when I decided to put it out. But it was actually revitalizing for me to do it
Mm-hmm.
again,
Sure.
because I would have never recorded those other leptomerians, as we call them, those
Sure.
leptomerians. I wouldn't have recorded them if I hadn't have written them down in that note form and typed them up before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, so I could see if anybody, I know quite a few people that have read all my books, now reading this, they will recognize some of those characters that I conversed with
Yeah.
in my books under
Yes.
another name.
Yes.
So
Okay.
that's what so I think I brought another perspective. I mean, my my obsession with old Greek signs,
Mm-hmm.
these sort of things. Well, no one really talks about those. That's the old Greece.
Yeah.
That's to be the real Greece as well.
Yeah. But it seems like so just for people to know, again, I'm not going to give too much about the book, but you start off in Athens, you go to Chios, then you go to Lesbos, you go to Rhodes, Carpathos, Crete, and then you end up in Mykonos. But between that, your encounters across the island, they seem vividly personal. Um, from Fotini in Athens to Ellen in Carpathos to Manolis in Crete. How did you approach turning these real people into literary portraits that didn't lose authenticity?
You mean in this book?
Yeah, in this book, yeah.
I just wrote them as they were. I, I just wrote. I can't think of anything else to say. I wrote them as they were. I
Yeah,
arrived at a taverna. I
yeah,
said something. I approached. They said, like when I'm in Heraklion and I
uh-huh,
approach the Suranda Avga.
yeah,
And, I said, thinking, what's the eggs got to do with the bar?
yeah.
Uh, and the man is looking at me and he said, can I help you? And I said,
Hmm.
what is this place? And he said, it's whatever you want it to be. I mean,
Yeah,
these were the real conversations. So I haven't made them up.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, and that's why I said to you earlier, reading the book, I knew this, I knew these characters. I may have not known these specific characters,
yes.
but I've met the Elenis and the Manolises of the world. The authenticity of them is as real gets in that.
Yeah.
But the men in your book, like the Nikos, the Manolis, the Christos that you talk about, they often carry this weight. It seems like um, of history and loss. There's always like a loss associated with them. Do you
Yeah.
think that for you, what does that represent for you?
Well, I think that's part of the Greek character.
Hmm.
I think that's what makes the Greeks.
Hmm.
You live for today because you don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
You know, this this thing that people use flippantly, this philoxenia,
Hmm.
all this, um, it happens. Sometimes the poorest people, the people with nothing, will be the ones that are the most generous.
Yeah.
If they couldn't give me a present, uh, and they would give me a sprig of basil.
Yeah.
My bag was full of dried bits of basil, and they were wanting to give. This sense of honour had
Hmm.
permeated through. But their history, in the scheme of our history in
Hmm.
looking England, in the scheme of things, modern Greece is very young. What has happened?
Mm-hmm.
So these traumas are still with the Greeks,
Yeah.
and modern Greece, I think, is still like modern Turkey, is still coming to terms with what it really is
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
It wasn't East, it wasn't West, but it had some of those characters.
Yes. Yes.
So, no, I just, as I said about the Maria's grandfather in
Mm-hmm.
Crete, who was given the Pasha's then sister's palace
Yeah.
that became the Hotel Veneto. When
Mm-hmm.
you look into his eyes, they weren't hard eyes, and yet those Cretans had gone through so much. Everyone had, but there were soft eyes, and that's again, I think, what you pick up when you go somewhere and you don't speak a language in the
Yes.
beginning.
Yeah.
You can see through into people.
Yeah. Now, I'm just curious. So, when you went back and you traveled to all these places, um, were you taking notes immediately, or are you, when you're writing the memoir, are you just remembering? Are you allowing memory and time to shape how you wrote the book?
No, I had notebooks with me all the
Okay.
time. Uh, Not big notebooks, but little notebooks.
Mm-hmm.
Loads of things. I'd write. Like Picasso used to draw on serviettes.
Sure.
I'd do
Sure.
things like that, and then in the evening, I'd write more up, almost
Mm-hmm.
like a diary.
Sure.
And then I had all the photographs. And
Yeah.
when I look back now, the photographs are not as clear as you would take photographs now.
Mm-hmm.
So I made sure that I had lots and lots of photographs uh, to remind me and put it in place. In fact, I'm not going to get off the chair now, but when I go back into the other room, the notes that were all typed up later
Yeah.
on when I got back is in a box this thick.
Wow.
That, yeah. So all those conversations, everything was fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As I said, I wouldn't have been able to have remembered it. When I
Okay.
looked back, when I decided to do it again, I thought, oh my God. Ah, and Sideros with the big moustache from
Yeah.
Anavatos. He's one of the classic. He should. He would be in a film today.
Yeah.
Who on earth? You don't find these characters in England. I mean, when the woman said to him, when he wanted to send me to his friend in Lesbos, and the women are very strong. I find the women quite strong.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and she said, "Well, go on then. Go and get her the address, the phone number for her."
Mm-hmm.
And he just said, "Variemi." I mean, who would turn around and say, "Oh, I'm bored. I'm bored to go and walk to my house and get it," and then in the end decide and bang his fist on the table and say, "Okay." I mean, that's a very great character. That's very Kazantzakis character to do that.
A lot of your scenes in the book, there's a lot of sensory detail, like smell, texture, color. Do you consciously write through it like a designer's eye, or does that perspective just emerge naturally for you?
Uh, I think it's very hard to say how you write, how your own writing is to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I definitely would say I have that. I see things through a designer's eye.
Mm-hmm.
All my books, somewhere or other, I will talk about the dress or the food or sensory things are very important.
Mm-hmm.
Smells, touch, taste, and also because I've walked down these streets, that has to
Mm-hmm.
seep into you to come out in your writing.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I read some other people's books who don't understand these places, you
Mm-hmm.
can tell. it's
Yeah.
missing some soul or something.
Yeah.
And I definitely do. I didn't construct this memoir as I do my other books, which I can say there is a correlation there between constructing and designing an art piece or a design piece and the way you want to construct
Mm-hmm.
the sketch outline for a novel.
Mm-hmm.
There can be a correlation, but I'm always looking for the sensory part. That's
Yeah.
what touched me. That's what touched me even in Vienna.
Yeah.
But it touched me. It touched me in Greece. It
Yeah.
touches me wherever in France, wherever I go. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my bestseller is actually a French book, set in the Resistance in the Jura near the Swiss border. Now I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming across all these roadside execution sites, and I'm bawling my eyes out. I can't help it.
Yeah.
Here's someone who's fighting for freedom and has just been shot, just like that. And it was just like in the woods, and all around me is beauty, the beauty of the countryside, and yet someone was killed here.
Mm.
So I think that's perhaps a part of me as well.
Yeah. In the book, when you talk about Chios, you talk about Crete. You talk about explore about traumas that happen from massacres to wars. Um, it kind of shapes the collective memory there.
Yes.
Do you believe modern Greece still carries that inherited pain, or has it transformed into strength at this point?
Uh, I haven't been back for 8 years. I'm going to go back next year. I still
Okay.
speak with Rufo
Mm-hmm.
Fotini,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a lot to do with the Greeks here.
Okay.
So, from what I gather from Fofo,
Mm-hmm.
she's constantly telling me, "Oh, Greece is it's changing, it's changing, it's changing all the time." So it'll be interesting for me when I go back again to see yet again another change. But the Greeks here, as often happens with the diaspora, they
Mm-hmm.
hold on to things, I think, sometimes more than the Greeks or people in their own country.
Sure.
Uh, Similarly, the Maltese do.
Mm-hmm.
They hold on to, the
Yeah.
older generation held on to things. Where things move on in that country, they're,
Mm-hmm.
here, here they're still holding on to that.
Yeah.
For the Greeks here, and there are quite a few thousand of
Yeah.
them, they, uh, this history has definitely shaped their memory. Definitely shaped their memory. The groups, there's a lot of festivals, and the biggest one is the Antipodes, which is in February. Takes up the whole part of central
Mm-hmm.
Melbourne, and there are huge stages, and you will get the Cretan Brotherhood, the Pontian
Mm-hmm.
Brotherhood, and they are just they're all in their clothes and their
Mm-hmm.
dances, and they're so proud. So they really hold on to their food and their history
Mm-hmm.
very much.
Sure.
Yeah. So
You just no. Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
can't say I can't say so much. I'll know a bit more when I go back again.
Sure.
I,
Sure.
I do think though probably if I get to the villages off the beaten track again, yeah, I'll probably still find some of that old
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. You describe Greece as a place that remembers you. Um, what does that statement mean to you now, years later, after you started writing this book?
Greece is, I, I feel international. I don't feel English. Well, part of me is English. Of course, I appreciate that background.
Uh huh.
when I write my French books, I feel, I put myself to French. But I was in Greece in my 20s. It's a formative part of you, and I think Greece has helped to make me what I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's being there in those years, having that experience. Yeah, it has definitely formed me. If I go to England now, they will think I'm loud, noisy, and and I'll say things that I shouldn't say, and so the Australian or the Greek side of me comes out.
Yeah.
If I go to Greece, they think I'm being like a polite English person.
Sure.
But in myself, I feel that Greece allowed me to express my emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to go back to the first few chapters when you get back to Athens and you meet up with Fotini, Nikos, and Nico there. All these years since you left Athens and you went back in 2005, were you still in touch with all these people? Did you
Uh,
close?
yes, because when I came over here,
Yeah.
I left in '78. I went to New Zealand for almost 2 years. Then I
Mm.
came to Melbourne, and after the first 2 years in Melbourne, I was going back to Europe every year because of the
Okay.
work that I was doing. So
Okay.
I would take a side trip,
Okay.
and
Okay.
if and I would often go back just for a week or so in Athens,
Okay.
but always with Fofo and Leah. I was talking on the phone. In fact, Fofo, I think you want to call her Fofo in the book. Fortunately, she phones me every month.
Nice. Very
Uh,
nice. Okay.
yeah. So we've had those friends, and Nikos. When Nikos died a couple
Yeah.
of years ago, Nikos would have been 10 years older than me, probably.
Mm-hmm.
My boss. It was like the end of an era. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. It was, yeah, and gradually what they're going,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I want their stories out.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the embroiderer, I use Nikos, his name
Mm-hmm.
Nikos Papianakos. I use him as the father in Constantinople as Father Yanakos.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So that was your influence in that.
well, yeah, and
Yeah.
character.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just curious, when you visited, when you spent 6 years there, initially, did you do a lot of traveling? Did you go to these islands prior to going back in 2005? Or were you like going to places for the first time, or were you revisiting places?
Uh, no, I actually didn't do that much traveling. I went to Hydra a couple of
Mm-hmm.
times.
Sure.
In fact, I went to Hydra that first year, which was the last year that Marianne was there from the, what's my notes here for my music? What's my music? Leonard Cohen's. Leonard
Okay.
Cohen's girlfriend. It was the
Okay.
last year that they had split up then. It was the
Okay.
last year she was in Hydra because she was
Okay.
pointed out.
Okay.
Um, I went to Hydra. I just went around locally.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I didn't. I spent most of my time in Athens just walking. I was 2 stone lighter
Yeah.
than I am now because I walked everywhere. Didn't have a
Sure.
car. Most people didn't have a car in those days as well.
Yeah.
Uh, and I didn't really have them. I was quite well paid
Mm-hmm.
by Greek standards, but I had an artistic husband
Okay.
who was all over the place, and and uh, so we explored more of the area. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, all these places.
So I'm curious, when you went to Helios for the first time, um,
Yeah.
What was that like for you? As far as did you were you taking the mastica right off the trees?
Uh, I uh, well, it was when I was driving away. Because you have to get up early to do
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and I get up at 11 o'clock. I go to bed late. I've tried. My husband hates me for it. He really hates me. I've tried going to bed early, but then I
Yeah,
just sleep more. So,
yeah,
so I thought, oh, there's no way I'm getting up at 5 o'clock to go look at the mastic gatherers.
yeah,
But that day that I was leaving, I
yeah,
just happened to see two people, and I stopped the car, and I
yeah,
got out and asked them, "What are you doing? I don't really have an interest. Can you show me?"
yeah,
And this elderly couple who were tending two mastic trees
yeah,
showed me what they were doing with the little hacking knife,
yeah.
and you could see the gum come out. And
Uh-huh.
that's when they showed me the process. They said you must let it fall onto the ground to harden,
Right.
because that's so. In the end, in the evening, they took it home, and then they sorted it out when it had hardened.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually do it, but I watched them do it. And they
Okay.
were very kind, and they sat there and they shared their bread and cheese with me, and then
Yeah.
they gave me some little pieces of mastic and said, "Wait a bit, don't eat it yet," which of course couldn't help myself when I got to the top and couldn't open my mouth because it stuck together. And I'm thinking, God, why didn't I listen to them? But what was even more, hit me even more was that those mastic villages were so protected by the Ottomans
Yeah.
that anybody caught with even one nugget of gum in their pocket could have been executed.
Yeah.
It was so valuable,
Yeah.
so valuable.
Yeah.
And here I am walking with a few nuggets, going away. I would have been imprisoned or killed if that was Ottoman
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think my brother knows this or not, but our great grandfather, my mother's grandfather's was from Chios.
Ah,
Yeah.
whereabouts?
I have no idea. I can't, that's all I know. Uh, but I think there's like a mastica tree in my future somewhere. Um,
Yeah, we always had now obviously you can buy it off of Amazon in a powder, but we had
Yeah,
the chunks that my mother used to
yeah,
grind up for making chudeki and other recipes like that, and then we had the actual
yeah.
gum as well that they would use. And actually, was it last year we had the liquor
Oh,
that
that's
was made from
fantastic.
yeah.
mastica. That's really good. That's
Yeah.
scary
Really,
good,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Really
It's
good.
addictive. It's addictive. But here I can get the mastic nuggets because
Yeah.
in the Greek shops.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I
Yeah,
am
yeah.
putting it into my own biscuits, I will
Mm-hmm.
grind it myself. And as you're grinding it, suddenly the kitchen smells like the Orthodox Church because
Yeah.
that's what it reminds me
100%.
of. Yeah.
100%. Do you,
But
do you,
it's
oh,
people do not realize that mastic was more prized than gold. It was
mm-hmm.
the same as frankincense and myrrh, and mastic has been found in the Egyptian mummies.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
Yeah.
the Genoese that really started the trade properly. But it had to have been so important that the whole mastic area
Mm-hmm.
came under the patronage of the Valid Sultan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So highly, highly profitable
Yeah.
and healthy.
Yeah. I'm just curious, going back to those first 6 years that you were in Athens there. Um what was your introduction to Greek food like? Was it like a lot different? It's a lot different than British food. I'm sure it's a lot different than Austrian food you had in Vienna. Was there one or two foods that when you had it for the first time, you were like, "Wow, this is amazing"?
Uh, I like all Greek food except try. Because, there's a story of try. I still can't take try. No.
We can't
and,
either.
and everybody seems to like to eat it when they've had too much to drink. I know.
Yeah, it's enough.
I, I, I just, I loved everything. I loved it all. I've always been, even as a child, I always liked something that was different.
Yeah, yeah,
And my mother, growing up, was extremely conventional,
yeah,
really conventional.
yeah,
It was, pasta was real foreign food to her.
yeah,
So
yeah,
no way that you would have had an aubergine or garlic or anything like that.
yeah,
No, it was
yeah.
apple pie and 3 veg, and I was always searching for something different. But I've got food recipes at the back. But one of my the first ones that I fell in love with that I had near Piraeus
Hmm.
is Garida Saganashi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're talking dirty to us, Catherine.
You know, the baked prawns in feta.
Exactly.
I love that. And it's one of my favorites. It's one of my husband's favorites as well.
What
That,
was your introduction to Uzo like?
the cheap ouzo first. The cheap ouzo, which is like night and day to plomare. Plomare, I'm never without plomare.
Yeah.
Um, In fact, I've got to get some more. And I've got to get some more of that mastic liqueur, which the best one I like is called Xenos, I think it is.
Okay.
Xenos, the one with there's a hole
Yeah.
in it. And when
Yeah.
you put that in, you can almost see the mastic
Yeah.
oil floating on the top. Yes, they're smooth.
Yeah.
I loved it. But Retsina, now, Retsina is another thing.
Yeah.
Well, I like Retsina, and I still drink it here. Although it was that's another thing. There used to be what we called the katukis in
Okay.
those days. Do you know what I mean? The
No,
katukis.
I don't think so.
Little small tavernas that you went down some steps,
Okay.
and
Okay.
they just had barrels around
Okay.
of the wine.
So it's moonshine.
Just the Retsina. Yeah. Well, yeah, just his barrel and a few wooden tables, and you just get served bread, cheese, fasolakia, the beans, no
Yeah.
meat or anything like
No.
that.
No. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very basic food, a bit like you get in places around Athenas market, and you get the container of the Retsina. Well, when
Yeah.
it's fresh and it's their own, it's really nice. But when my friends from England would come over, they'd
Yeah.
say, okay, you know what, you're used to drinking beer. What's the beer like out here? And you'd say, well, try this ouzo. So, they take it and go, "Phew, it's paraffin." And you'd say, yes, but it's only five drachma a litre. And they'd
Yeah.
say, oh, it's not bad, is it? When they realised they could get
Yeah.
drunk.
And the funny thing is, I don't know anybody who drinks paraffin, but finally, we're pushing up our time now, Catherine. But my final question to you is, you were saying earlier, like you love being a storyteller, but would you also consider yourself more of somewhat of a cultural historian as well?
Uh, I'd like to think so. I would like to think so, yes. Because all the stories I tell have to be based on truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter which country, whether it's I've written my World War II in Vienna or in France. And now I'm doing one on Malta as well. It's
Yeah.
all got to be art based. So you're reading a lot of history books at the same time,
Yeah. Yeah.
as well as experiencing things. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, listen,
That's
Kathryn.
that's what I like in other people. I like them to tell me stories like that.
Yeah, I listen. I'm the same way. But listen, you've been a pleasure to have on the show. Thank you for taking the time out. The book is called An Aegean Odyssey.
Yes.
You are.
So you again?
That's it. You are Kathryn Gauci. For Baklava Banter, I am Petraki. He is Soto. And once again, Kathryn Gauci, thank you for your time. Go pick up the book. Where can people get to find the book, Kathryn?
It's on Amazon.
Perfect.
It's on Amazon or bookshops or libraries can order it.
Perfect. Until next time, people, you've been watching Baklava Banter. Be good to each other, and we'll see you all soon. Take care now.
Thank you.